Jesus has been dead in the tomb for 3 days. And a lot can happen in 3 days. You can go from feeling like you're on top of the world to finding yourself hiding out on the outskirts of the city, afraid that you're going to die like your Messiah died. You can go from feeling like victory is imminent to feeling like it was all just a facade. You can go from feeling alive, finally feeling like things are going in the right direction for once. You can go all the way to the opposite of feeling like you've lost everything. You can go from having forsaken everything to follow a Messiah to feeling like you've been forsaken. And the worst part of all of it is that you've watched your best friend, your mentor, tortured and murdered in front of your very own eyes. And all you can do is soak in the pain because you can't escape it. This is what the disciples would have been feeling. They were living into defeat and they had accepted it. Some of the women, the very same women who had seen Jesus perform miracles that only God could have performed, they're headed to the tomb to anoint the body of Jesus with funeral spices, not only as a sign of respect, but to hide the stench of death that was also starting to creep at their doors. And when they arrive at the tomb, something has unfolded. The stone has been rolled back, not because the angels needed to let Jesus out, but because the angels had rolled it back to allow these women to look into the empty tomb so that they could begin experiencing the resurrection for themselves. And they step down into the tomb and they see Jesus' funeral linens neatly stacked and a couple of angels who were clothed like they were wearing lightning, and instantly they fall to their faces in fear. But the angels tell the women, "Get up. Why are you looking for the living among the dead?" And feelings of hope begin to crescendo as the women begin to recall what Jesus told them, that he would be crucified, that he would be buried, and that on the 3rd day he would rise again. And full of new life, full of new hope, they begin running back as the very first missionaries, as the very first apostles, as the very first preachers to the resurrection of Jesus. They run back to the 11 and tell them everything that they have seen. But the 11 didn't believe them at first. But that didn't matter. The women, they knew. They knew that Jesus was alive, that Jesus had come back from the grave, that he had defeated death itself. Their souls had been turned inside out, and they were more alive than they had ever been. A lot can happen in 3 days. The world can be turned upside down. Death is not the end of the story when Jesus is in it. Jesus is the God of the resurrection, not only for when we physically die, but for the here and now as well, like he was for these women. He breathed life into them in that moment. They didn't have to live in defeat anymore. They didn't have to accept the sorrow, because Jesus takes that defeat, he takes that sorrow, he takes that emptiness, that brokenness, that hopelessness, and he turns all of it upside down and breathes new life into it, because Jesus is the God of the resurrection. My hope and my prayer for this Easter is that you would experience this Jesus of the resurrection, not for the then and later, but for the here and now. That if you do have things that are making you feel dead inside, if all seems lost, if all seems hopeless, if it seems like your world has been turned upside down, I pray that Jesus would breathe new life into you in the here and now.